What's going on, everybody? Josh Engleman here for Stokastic.com, and I am kicking off the NFL season finally with my contenders for week one, the Sunday main slate on DraftKings. This is going to be a good one. I'm going to give you my top five at every position, although I'm probably not going to dig into the defenses, which you can see on the screen right now. Before we do anything, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. Only place you're ever going to get any updates to these sim results. It's going to be there. So you need to follow me on Twitter. And activity is upon us. I'm excited for this NFL Sunday. I'm not going to lie. And I rarely am. What we've got here are my top 10s on defense. I'm going to have it for tight end, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, all that stuff. We're going to get through it. I also need to say, shout out to Prize Picks. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But first, it's not going to get me anywhere on week one to dig into the defensive plays. The Titans, to me, the number one defense. They're in the optimal lineup 7% of the time. That's barely worth talking about. The Ravens are at 4%. That's 10th. It is very, very flat from a defense perspective. I rarely have a ton of interest in defense to begin with. To me, I'm just going to put in whoever fits, but you can see the separation here. 3% likelihood between the Titans and the Ravens, 1 to 10. I can't sift through that before I've seen any of these teams play, before we have any real idea. So this is defense. I feel a little bit better about the skill position. So let's move on to the tight ends. Rounding out the bottom of my top 10, we've got Hayden Hurst, Zach Ertz, Logan Thomas, Irv Smith, TJ Hawkinson, and in at number 5, Dallas Goedert, 4,500, projected for 11 fantasy points. Philly taking on Detroit. They're 4.5-point favorites, 48.5-point total. You're not expecting a monster day from Goddard. I don't want to read too much into my number 5 tight end. This is where it starts to get a little squirrely. He's in the optimal lineup 8%. That's enough to make him one of the top 5 tight ends. I don't have much else to say about Dallas Goedert other than his optimal odds. That's just how some of this is going to work. In at number 4 now, we've got Darren Waller. This one's actually mildly interesting to me. 5,400, projected for 12.7 fantasy points. The Raiders are taking on the Chargers. They are 3.5-point underdogs, 52.5-point total. There is a small chance that Waller can go for north of 30 fantasy points, but it won't take that much for him to be awesome. What I'm really interested in for Waller is, how much of an effect does Davante Adams have now that he's on the Raiders? Is this going to free up a lot of the field for Waller? Is he in line for a sneaky big season? I think that's possible. I'm interested to see it. Happy to see him coming in at number 4. In at number 3, this one makes a ton of sense. Mark Andrews, 6,800, projected for just shy of 16 fantasy points. Ravens taking on the Jets. They are 6.5-point favorites, 44-point game total. 5% chance for Andrews to go for north of 30, which I think looks great. 8% chance of him being in the optimal lineup. Well, 9 if you round it up. It's 8.5. You can see it on the screen. I shouldn't really have to explain why this is interesting. Even though I think the Jets defense is solid, I don't think that matters enough in this case because I don't think the Jets are going to be all that good this year. Hence the 6.5-point line in this one in the 44-point total. I think Andrews is in for a big day. That is why you see him at number 3, justifying a $6,800 price tag. Let's keep in mind, I think you're going to need like well into the 20s from Andrews if you really want to think about him being the optimal tight end. And I think that's possible. We can save a little bit of salary here and go to number 2, Kyle Pitts, 5,700, projected for 13 fantasy points. Atlanta taking on the Saints. They're 5.5-point dogs, 43-point total, so nothing great there. He's just a cost-effective guy on an Atlanta Falcons team that, in my opinion, not going anywhere. I don't think that I'm alone in that opinion, but they should be passing quite frequently, and I think Pitts is the most likely Falcon, at least from the tight end perspective, that's going to benefit from that. And then we close it out at tight end pretty easily. $6,600 Travis KELCE, projected for 17 fantasy points, taking on Arizona. 6-point favorites, 54-point total. There's going to be a ton of fantasy production to go around in this one. 8% likelihood to go for north of 30. 14% chance to be in the optimal. We'll see how much Tyreek Hill not being on the Chiefs affects KELCE, but so far it seems to be business as usual. Travis KELCE is your best tight end option this week. Now we get into the more interesting things at wide receiver. We're closing out the bottom of the top 10. Christian Kirk, Michael Pittman, Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, Kadarius Toney, and Rondale Moore coming in at number 5. He's just 4K, projected for 12 fantasy points in that same shootout we just talked about for KELCE. Arizona, the dogs here, so you think that they're going to be throwing even more frequently. Now, it's very possible that Rondale Moore has a not great day. I got him at about 39% likelihood to be under 10 fantasy points. However, at 4K, you don't need a ton more. If he gets up to that 20 range, I think you're going to be very happy. And I see this game playing out in a way that he is very live as a true paydown option for week 1. In at number 4, we've got DJ Moore, a guy that I am quite confident I'll be talking about a lot this season. 6K, projected for almost 15 fantasy points, taken on Cleveland. The game is a pick'em. The total's 42, which is pretty unappealing from a fantasy perspective, but I think DJ Moore sort of transcends bad matchups. 10% chance to go for north of 30. 12% chance to be in the optimal, so read into that how you want, but you're probably needing 26 or 27 for more to be in the optimal. 22-ish plus is just going to be an absolute victory at 6K. 20% chance, though, to be under 10 fantasy points. I'm not too worried about that. More looking good enough for me getting into that number 4 spot. Now we get one of the big guns here, 7,800 for Justin Jefferson. Fantasy point projection, 19.3. Minnesota taking on Green Bay. They are 1-point dogs, 46.5 point total. That totally works for me. Now this is where you start needing, or not only needing, but wanting big games. 20% likelihood for Jefferson to go for north of 30. 13% chance he's in the optimal. Still a bust possibility, and it's always out there, but in terms of big play upside at wide receiver this week, there aren't a lot of guys that match the ceiling of Justin Jefferson. One of those guys, though, is Jamar Chase, 7,100, coming off a great year last year. 18.3 fantasy point projection, Cincy, 6.5-point favorites against Pittsburgh with just a 44-point total. Pittsburgh, not very good. 18% likelihood to go for north of 30, 14% chance to be in the optimal lineup. This all looks really good to me. I like the idea of targeting Pittsburgh. $7,100 price tag, I don't see as all that problematic. I think the ceiling for Chase is huge. I would not be surprised at all if Jamar Chase were the highest scoring wide receiver on the slate. I'm going to absolutely be getting to Jamar Chase, my number 2, but not quite enough to get to the number 1 spot. And that number 1 spot is his teammate, T. Higgins, 6,100 here, projected for 16 fantasy points. Same matchup, obviously, 6.5-point favorites against the Steelers. 12% chance of going for north of 30, so not the same true ceiling, but the $1,000 in savings going from 7,100 to 6,100 is enough to give T. Higgins the jump. But what I'm really seeing here is that stacking up T. Higgins and Jamar Chase feels like something I would absolutely want to do this week. Why wouldn't I want to try to get my number 1 and number 2 wide receivers into the same lineup? Wonder where Joe Burrow is going to rank. Now, before we get to the running backs and the quarterbacks, I couldn't even remember what order I was going in. We got to talk a little bit about Prize Picks, presenting sponsor of this video. Click the link in the description of the video. You don't even have to enter a promo code. As long as you click the link that I've got for you guys, head on over to Prize Picks. You will get a deposit match bonus of up to $100. So if you've only got 20 bucks to put in, that's fine. They're going to match with 20. My recommendation, start checking those couch cushions. Try to get that all the way up to $100. Free money is always the best money. So if you can put in 100 and get matched with 100, that's going to be great. We've got plenty of tools at Stokastic.com that I think will help you out. Videos on our YouTube channel, including Eric Lindquist putting out just amazing Prize Picks picks. Coming through the Prize Picks picks. Yeah, that's exactly how I said it. Through the MLB season, he absolutely crushed it. Keep your eye out for his content for the NFL as well. But for now, link in the description. Go check out Prize Picks. Rounding out the bottom of my top 10 at running back, we've got Alvin Kamara, Austin Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, Derrick Henry, and Joe Mixon on the outside. Well, not on the outside looking in. He makes the top 5 now. 7,100 for Mixon. I've just talked about 2 of his teammates at wide receiver. We still get Mixon into the top 5. I just like the idea of getting to Cincinnati in general. Projected for 17.5. Seems like Joe Mixon could have a big second half if they're trying to hold a lead. If you can get those touchdowns early, even better. just about a 12% chance to go for north of 30. Similar odds of him being in the optimal lineup. This all looks good to me. Grab yourself some Joe Mixon. In at number 4, we're going to Green Bay, $6,700 Aaron Jones, projected for 16.5 fantasy points. Packers are a 1-point favorite against Minnesota, 46.5 point total. Not the biggest ceiling in the world, but I think the floor looks good. About 9% chance of going for north of 30, 12% chance to be in the optimal. I like Jones here. I'm anxious to see what his role ends up being now that Devontae Adams is not on the team. I really do think that's going to change the scope of the Packers. It should benefit Aaron Jones, but there's definitely the opposite side of the coin where they don't have to pay attention as much to the other wide receivers, allowing them to target Jones some more. So we shall see how that ends up breaking. But for now, he makes the top 4. That's all I really need to see. I'll be honest, I didn't really expect this one, but here we are. Saquon Barkley in at number 3, back from last year's injury, 6,100, projected for 16 fantasy points. The Giants are taking on the Tennessee Titans, 5.5-point dogs, 44-point total. 7% chance for Barkley to go for north of 30. That would be a hell of a storyline for week 1. 12% likelihood of being in the optimal, though, because 6,100 is a price tag that I think just works. I'm really hoping that Barkley can be healthy this year. It's really just more fun if he's going to be out there. I think he's ultra talented. I want to see what he can do. We'll see how banged up he's going to get throughout the year, but at least for right now, it appears that he's healthy for week 1, and that puts him into the number 3 spot. At number 2, we're going to Najee Harris, 6,400, projected for just shy of 16 fantasy points. Pittsburgh, dogs against Cincy, 44-point total. Now, normally you would think like, I don't want to get the running back against, well, they're big underdogs without that total, but Najee Harris is capable of catching a ton of balls in this one, and they are going to have to throw in this one. At least that's my expectation, given the way I'm seeing Mixon and some of the pass catchers in at wide receiver. So 13% chance to be in the optimal got him all the way to number 2, just shy of that number 1 spot. Do you guys know who my number 1 running back is this week? He's healthy, so this is obvious. It's Christian McCaffrey in my eyes, 8,500, projected for 22.5 fantasy points. It's a coin flip game against Cleveland, and so long as he's healthy, you know that he is like ready to put up just bonkers totals. The type of guy that could rush for 100 and catch 100 yards worth of balls. That's going to be just a monster day. We didn't even count touchdowns in those scenarios. 25% chance to go for north of 30, 17% chance he's in the optimal. Take advantage while you can. We don't know if we're going to see McCaffrey for the entire season, but we know he's there for week 1. So McCaffrey in at 1, Barkley in at 3. These guys that are normally injured are here for this week, and I'm here for it. 17% likelihood. He pulled away from the pack. Christian McCaffrey, number 1 running back. Now, before I close it out with the quarterbacks, one last reminder, like, subscribe, notification bell, all that good stuff. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. Let me know in the comments section. What do you like? What do you dislike? What are you seeing that I'm not seeing? I want to know where you guys are, and I want to know that stuff in the comments section of this video. It's below it. Daniel Jones, Kyler Murray, Jameis Winston, Pat Mahomes, Derek Carr, and Tua round out everything here. Tua's in at number 5, 5,700, projected for 18. Dolphins taking on the Pats, 3.5-point favorites in this one, 46.5-point total. 9% chance to go for north of 30. That doesn't appear to be Tua's game. 5% chance to be in the optimal, but just in case you don't see it, Tua at 5, Carr at 5, Mahomes at 5, Winston, Murray, Jones. Very, very difficult to separate out the quarterbacks, and that's fine for me. I don't really care generally what I'm getting at quarterback. Most of my quarterback decisions are dictated by what I'm getting at running back and wide receiver. This is no different, and this is how it's sort of like, I hope that visual helps you guys for this, because this is a tag along to your pass catchers. And right now, Tua's tagging along at number 5. And finally, we get Joe Burrow in at number 4. I was wondering where we were going to see him. 6% chance of being the optimal, so soaring above those other guys. 6,400, projected for 20. 16% chance to go for north of 30. You already saw 2 of his pass catchers in at 1 and 2. You saw Mixon in at the running back spot. Love the Cincinnati stack. Very clearly my number 1 stack heading into Sunday, so go ahead and grab that in some of your contests. But for now, get yourself some Joe Burrow. Love him here. Revenge narrative for the league after dropping the Super Bowl. Justin Herbert in at number 3, 7,600, projected for about 23 fantasy points. Those Chargers are 3.5-point favorites against Vegas. 52.5 total. We're going to expect some slinging the old pigskin in this one. 24% chance of being north of 30, 6% chance to be in the optimal, just slightly beats out Joe Burrow in this one. I'm expecting a monster day out of Herbert. He's just getting better and better. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I'm excited to see how he grows this season. Unfortunately for Justin Herbert, though, that wasn't enough to get him into the top 2 spots. That number 2 spot goes to Lamar Jackson. I don't think anybody's surprised here. This should be probably the easiest explanation I'll give. 7,300 projected for 23 fantasy points. They take on the Jets, their favorites, 44-point total, 22% chance to go north of 30. Still just a 6% chance to be in the optimal because quarterback is just weird like that. But you just feel safe with Lamar. He can beat you on the ground. He can beat you in the air, but not in the same sort of way. But against the Jets, I am going to lean on Lamar Jackson here. Happy to get him in at number 2, but not enough to take the number 1 spot. And that number 1 spot easily goes to Jalen Hurts. 6,800 projected for 23.5, and that is why he's up there. 4.5-point favorites are the Eagles taking on the Lions. 48.5-point total. 27% likelihood for Hurts to go for north of 30. He gets to that 9% mark of being in the optimal. He's very clearly, even at these low numbers, you can see it in the ownership. You're probably going to Jalen Hurts in cash games on DraftKings. I'm happily going to him in tournaments as well. He looks great, and particularly in a matchup against the Lions that I don't find to be all that problematic. So if you are looking for the number 1 quarterback this week, look no further than Jalen Hurts. Alrighty, folks, that will do it. Those are my NFL DFS contenders for week 1 on DraftKings. Excited to see it back. There's a FanDuel version of this video around here somewhere, so check it out. Good luck this Sunday. We're going to need it. I know I need it. It's the NFL season. It always feels a little squirrely in week 1. You never know how it's going to break. We have a ton of content planned, heading all the way up until Sunday. I will be starting our Sunday NFL coverage, I believe at 9 a.m. Don't quote me on that. It could be 10 a.m. We're going at least 3 hours, if not 4 hours. Lots of content. Tune in to our YouTube channel for that. Good luck, everybody. I'm out of here. I will see you guys again Monday morning for some Monday Night Football contenders. Actually, scratch that. I'll see you guys again Sunday morning for some Sunday Night Football contenders. Totally forgot. It's going to be there every week, too, so be ready.